5-0. Again, you need 19 match points to make it into day 2, and a win here will be very big for both players. Kevin's going to start things off with an Arceus V in the active spot, has that Duraludon V on the bench.
Yeah, great way to start things off here, and has the double turbo energy to go along with it. Usually you just ask the Poke Gods for one energy. But to get the double turbo, that's very nice.
Arceus putting in double duty here.
And to see your opponent start that Radiant Charizard is also very interesting. It can be an awkward Pokemon to work around with. Of course, you got the Duraludon VMAX. You worry about the weakness occasionally working its way into the mix. So if you can get this Pokemon out of the way early, and of course with the giant retreat cost, it's a lovely one to stare down.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to be attaching 5 energy cards to attack with it turn 2 or not most games. Lance has the Lugia V, of course. Best thing to start with your Lugia V-Star deck is to have that Lugia V in play so you can hopefully Summoning Star for 2 Archeops the next turn.
Yeah, namesakes of the deck are usually good cards to have. See, Lance is going to go with a Professor's Research, though, and that's a lot of Pokemon down, and one of those Lost Vacuum, a very pivotal card in the matchup.
And plays 2 copies of those cards, so still has access to the 1, but it is used to get rid of that big Parasol tool from Kevin's side of the board, and you're going to have to navigate around this whole game now.
Yep, of course, you have that big Parasol. You're trying to avoid being knocked out in one hit by the amazing rare Yveltal. And if you can do that, then you're going to be sticking around a long time. You have that Duraludon VMAX, and it can do a lot of work, especially when you're blocking all of those special energy attacks, which is the entire deck from Lance's side of the board.
It's a good chunk of things. Evolution Incense will be able to find an evolution for Lance here. You can find that second Archeops or that Lugia V-Star for next turn.
Yep, usually when you see this played on the first turn, it's going to be about an Archeops, but occasionally it's also just good to get some cards moving around, start to thin out a little bit, and hopefully your top decks are a little more live. Yeah,
plus being able to look through the deck. It's first chance for Lance to figure out the prize cards here.
Yep, get some useful information. Sees, I believe, a 1/1 piece of the Lugia V-Star line is in the prize cards, but gets to get that Archeops immediately into the discard pile. Must feel good.
Yep, 2 in there, finds that Oranguru, one thing that was missing from the Lugia list we had up here, which was a little bit more spicier than we've seen beforehand.
Yeah, when you make inclusions like the Ditto and what basically looked like a full Palkia line with Articunos and Wash Energies, you don't get to play these cards, but consistency can be nice sometimes.
And the thing about Primate Wisdom, you can hide that supporter for next turn on the top. And wow, draws a Lugia V-Star for the next turn to go along with it. And unless Kevin does something, this next turn for Lance is going to be pretty spectacular.
Yep, caught himself on the ordering, wanted to use that Oranguru first, then play the energy, throws down the belt, feels pretty comfortable here with a nice Lugia V setup.
Now this is the most pivotal turn for Kevin and his Arceus Duraludon deck. Gonna need to find a supporter to hopefully get things going, and then you get that Arceus V-Star, and from there you just need to charge up Duraludon VMAX.
Well, we'll see if the pieces align. Of course, Arceus V-Star are going to be piece number 1 that you'd like to find. Looks like just boss's orders here, so hopefully the rest of the hand has a little more going on.
Shuffling away a couple Arceus V-Star with that Poke Gear. Cannot grab those. You would love to have those right now.
It's nice to know they're in the deck at least, but hopefully we get another opportunity here.
Duraludon VMAX for the bench for Kevin here, and he does still have a good turn lined up thanks to that double turbo energy, being able to use that Trinity Charge. It is not a Trinity Nova, but it still gets you some energies in play.
Yep, if that is to be the turn, it's a little unfortunate. A big missed opportunity on taking the knockout here on the Radiant Charizard, and maybe even more. But we do see the energy attachment, so yeah, I think we are just going to see the energies accelerated here. So no shenanigans, no Arceus V-Star joining us this time around. And going to get the Duraludon charged up. This is going to be a good amount of the metal energies. We saw 2 in the prize cards and 1 attached to that Arceus. There's just, what, 1 left now? I think it's just 6 in the deck.
Yeah. And now with that Duraludon VMAX fully powered up, Lance is going to have to think of the game plan that Lugia decks normally try to do against Arceus Duraludon, and that's take a knockout on Arceus. Hopefully you can take a knockout with Yveltal, and from there, try to avoid big Parasol.
It's a lot easier to knock out an Arceus V as opposed to the Arceus V Star. Don't have to work in those additional powerful energies onto the Lugia V Star this time around. And we are going to see that Summoning Star there, both Archeops down onto the board. And we'll see if this is a situation where you just want to charge up the Radiant Charizard.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, is it worth putting those 5 energy, because Excited Heart is not activated right now. Your opponent has not taken any prize cards. So Combustion Blast, the full Monty here.
Yeah, that is it's not ideal, but I think it is potentially necessary at this stage. Even just taking the knockout on the Arceus V, if we don't see the boss's orders to attack into the Duraludon, but even then you can't really attack into that just yet, because that's not how that works. We don't see Path to the Peak in this list, so yeah, we'll see. Oh, going with the Heat Fire energy as opposed. I was like, wait a second, are we getting retreating energies or attacking?
I still don't know. This second Primal Turbo will place down the energy to the attacker, most likely. So you're either going to charge up this Charizard or Lugia V-Star on the bench, but I think this is the only time Radiant Charizard is going to be good, and it's because Kevin did not have that V-Star.
Yep, this is an opportunity where you can take some prize cards, get this Pokemon off the board, and the sooner you do this, also you limit your opponent's potential to draw into the Arceus V-Star. If you just attack into both these and remove them from play, you never have to worry about them searching out that big Parasol to really lock the game in play if you don't see that second vacuum.
Capture energy on that Lugia V-Star now, so really just going to thin out the deck, get a good shuffle maybe, and
yeah, we'll see. And definitely looks like knockout is lined up here, and we see the Professor's Research too to go along with this. Going to draw into a lot of energies, but the boss's orders too.
That'll be good for next turn.
Yep.
I think we're just going to see the Combustion Blast here take the knockout, minus 20 to that double turbo energy, but 230, still enough. And now Lance goes down to 4 prize cards, and this is where you got to map out the rest of your game.
All right, what does Kevin think at this stage? Even thinking about bringing the Arceus up into the active spot. What is in this hand?
Well, I know there's a boss's orders from that Pokegear, and we're going to have to try to find another supporter here.
Another Pokegear. My record with this card is not good. We'll see if maybe Kevin finds something and does find that Colress's Experiment.
No, Colress's Experiment is a supporter that's really been amazing in those Lost Box decks. In these Duraludons, they're a little bit better, being able to remove a lot of the cards, but Raihan is the supporter of choice for the turn.
This makes a lot more sense. Yeah, this the promotion of the Arceus now, you see that energy gets to be played right back onto the Arceus V. You can go ahead and grab that Arceus V-Star now. You have that Starbirth ability. You can find that double turbo energy along with perhaps the big Parasol now if you want to make sure you feel comfortable with the Duraludon VMAX, or you can think about supporters for the following turn.
So Arceus V-Star, a turn late, but we're still getting there.
Welcome to the party.
And essentially searching out 3 cards from the deck thanks to that Raihan and a combination of Starbirth, that V-Star power from Arceus.
Yep, this leads into what looks like a really strong turn when turn 2 was not the best here for Kevin, but it's going to be able to knock out this Radiant Charizard and start to look towards the future. I'm curious if the Parasol was taken.
Is there any avenue to boss's orders up in Archeops and take the knockout?
Potentially. We've seen some players go for that.
Oh, wait, Raihan was played this.
Yeah, okay. There, I'm like, wait a second. That wasn't on my radar. Yeah, Big Parasol was taken, so it doesn't have to worry about the amazing rare Evital just yet. It'd be a wild combination of cards to see from Lance.
Oh, and with the V-Guard energy in combination of the Heat Fire energy, Radiant Charizard is sticking around. You'll love to see it.
That's a combo. That is definitely a combo. And Kevin's like, hold up. I wanted a prize card, man. My hand's not very good.
Still does get a search for some energies.
Does have the Colress's Experiment that he's holding on to for later, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, what do you even grab in this situation? I don't know if this is a list that features the Hyper Potions, so extra energies onto the Duraludon doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, Hyper Potion is a card that we've kind of seen just fall by the wayside with this Arceus Duraludon list. A lot of players kind of just not really valuing the extra healing for getting rid of those energy in play.
So instead, just going to go for the 1 Metal Energy, maybe thinking about that retreat with the double turbo. And then maybe next time that Arceus attacks, it'll take a knockout. But not just yet. As we see, Lance gets to start off the turn, and he's got a retreat lined up.
Yeah, as long as you don't retreat that heat fire energy, everything's A-okay.
Wouldn't that be something? Fun way to make a bench space, I suppose.
Ultra Ball to start things off, discarding an Archeops and a Lugia V-Star. Lance will be able to find another attacker if he wants this turn, or just thin the deck out with that other Archeops that's left over.
Lance also gets to look through, does see that second lost vacuum copy, sees the boss's orders in hand, would love to thin down and find all the right pieces in order to make that combination work, but you'd like to have it in hand first before you start playing down all your cards.
And there is still 2 prizes in the active spot you can take with just that Lugia V-Star and 3 powerful energies, I believe.
Yep, definitely lines up there. You could remove this Pokemon from play, only be facing down the Duraludon VMAX, and try to make the combo work. Has plenty of time to do it, as Kevin has not drawn a prize card yet. I'm going to go for the lucky one. Does not find it there with the Oranguru.
Just grabs another Lumineon V from the top of the deck, both in hand now. Now, you can bench it, search for a supporter if you want, but it will kind of limit your bench, especially with this Radiant Charizard sticking around. Going with the cool one.
Yeah, always be wary of which fish you play. I'm looking through Lance's list. He actually has a lot of single copies to play a lot of different arts, and we've seen some
Person
players
after my own heart.
Go for that strategy. I hate that strategy with a passion. I like everything to match. But it also makes a lot of sense. A lot of players, when they're searching through, they're like, oh, okay, there's the shiny one, there's the cool one, there's the alt art, and I know I've got all my pieces.
Speaking of having all your pieces, Lance has 3 powerful colorless energies and a choice belt on that Lugia V-Star. More than enough to take a knockout on the active Arceus V-Star. And the turn's still not over. Lance is going to be playing a Marnie, hope to disrupt a little bit.
Starts to look like a little bit of a flex there when you see all these powerful energies go down. But honestly, we've seen the powerfuls, the captures. All that's left is all the energies that you want to find for your Amazing Rare Evital. So playing down the powerfuls, makes the most sense, even if you are going to go a little on too many for the knockout. But that's fine.
And Lance actually debated playing the Aurora energy on that Lumineon V, opted for the capture energy, and just like you said, that's going to be for the Evital the following turn, hopefully. So you want to have as many resources for that as possible while still having a pivot with that retreat. Oh, okay, correcting the damage. So I believe even if the Heat Fire energy is taken off, the Radiant Charizard still will stay on the board. Just 10 HP left.
All right, looks like we will see the retreat here. Lugia lined up very nicely to take the KO here and take 2 additional prize cards, leaving Kevin with the one and only Pokemon that he's really featuring in this list, that Duraludon VMAX. Is going to have to do a lot of work holding an umbrella.
Lone Skyscraper against the world here for Kevin. Now, it is all powered up. You can take knockouts turn after turn. It's just going to be if Lance has the combination of cards to deal with that powerful ability.
Looking through the list, we see Kevin does feature a few copies of Marnie, 3 of those. So I've seen a lot of players shy away from that, go for an engine that features just drawing a lot of cards and trying to have all the right pieces. But now has the Marnie maybe has a little bit of disruption to help out and avoid Lance having all the right pieces together.
Yeah, sacrifices a couple of those consistency supporters in Coloris's experiment and Professor's research, at least in the counts of them. And with this, you're just going to have an attack and a pass of the turn. Now with the full bench, I don't know if Lance can really do much of anything. I guess you can retreat the Lugia and attack with the Lumineon, kind of free up a bench space.
That's what I'm looking at, and just clean up the bench spaces, have an opportunity with a Pokemon to maybe retreat and try to set up the combo, have all the right pieces together. Maybe you can work in that amazing rare Yveltal at the right time.
Well, there is that first Primal Turbo, and I think Lance is doing exactly just that. Double Aurora Energy on Lumineon V, so we're going to see an awkward turn this turn because you definitely don't want to leave those in play.
Yeah. I was curious to see if we saw the additional Aurora Energies play down and then use the Oranguru, try to set up a different piece on the top or draw into a different piece that wasn't one of those energies. Looks like we're going to see a little more thinning before we get to maybe that point there with the Evolution Incense, but there's not much left.
Listen, Kyle, thinning is winning, especially in the Pokemon TCG. You want to maximize your odds to draw those cards you need when you need them.
Lance trying to do just that. We see the Oranguru now holding on to the Quick Balls, obviously thinking about finding that amazing rare Yveltal at the right time, but would love to see the Vacuum and have that for the perfect time.
And you're seeing the shuffle from the search with Evolution Incense. Primate Wisdom, now you're going to be able to shuffle that energy back into the deck. Probably even grab it if you want with Primal Turbo here.
Lance just considering third energy onto the Radiant Charizard.
Yeah, because you're still going to need a way to retreat. So you can retreat this Lugia V-Star, bring it up, attack with the Lumineon. You're not going to do any damage. Bring up the Lugia again, maybe, potentially the Radiant Charizard, kind of force Kevin to go a different route for some extra prize cards. But now both of those Pokemon can retreat if needed.
Yep, and we do see that. Lumineon back in, so the bench space is opened up. Lance did have to use a lot of those Professor's research to get to this point, so does not have the supporters to draw into the right cards now to potentially close this game out. But of course, would love to see that lost Vacuum, take away that Parasol, and get things rolling into game 2 potentially. Kevin trying to avoid that now with the Pokegear.
Third Pokegear of this game. Can it net Kevin a supporter that he actually wants to play in a turn? Looks like Professor's Research is going to be the choice, the Pokemon Go Professor's Research.
Does that have a code card attached to it?
Yeah, I think it's already been redeemed, so anyone watching at home, don't try for it.
We're going to find out. Everybody needs to slow down and take a quick picture there. We're going to see the Pokemon Catcher. That's a 2 of in this list.
Heads Archeops to the active spot, this is what you need to do to prevent that amazing destruction from happening next turn.
Yeah, it can be tricky to find the energies, let alone get them all into play at the right time. If you remove this Pokemon, you're in a great situation where the Yveltal is going to be telegraphed, and that is exactly what you want to see here.
Especially when you're playing a deck with 4 Boss's Orders and Pokemon Catcher.
Yeah, I like to know what's going on, and Lance correctly identifies the situation, said, oh boy, I need to get this Pokemon charged up now while I still have birds.
Yeah, hoping to follow it up with another Marnie potentially, but with Lance's list, there's only 2, and we've seen 1 be played already.
Maybe just taking a risk here, hoping to avoid the Boss's Orders, saying this is
wow, even have the Lost Vacuum in hand.
We do see the Marnie in hand.
And but there's just a pass
just
hope to fade a Boss's Orders or Pokemon Catcher here.
Big turn for Kevin.
Quick Ball. Those are 2 cards that are not Boss's Orders.
Yep. Not going to see Eldegoss or Lumineon or anything fancy. It's not really featured.
Oh, busting out the spice.
We're going to see the Radiant Jirachi.
It is not one of the more popular Radiant Pokemon, but whenever it hits the board, you always got to love it.
And read it. As, knowledge is power, and Lance is going to absorb as much as he can and realize, that's a cute card. I hope it doesn't do anything crazy to me. Sure enough, it has the double turbo.
And the switch. All right, we see a route, and we're going to take it.
Yep. I mean, this is a good spot. You don't have the Boss's Orders. The only Pokemon you care about is the Amazing Rare Yveltal. So go ahead and get this Radiant Jirachi into the active spot. You can flip for fun, but if your opponent knocks you out, you're going to find the right pieces to close out. Pokemon Catcher found, though. There was a switch used. This could easily be a retreat.
He's blowing on the dice, tails.
Never blew on the dice.
That was the last catcher, too, so no possibility of bringing up that Yveltal this turn. May just have to rely on 2 heads from Astral Misfortune to take a knockout.
Oh, I don't know if we care too much about the knockout.
No, we care about the knockout. Collapse Stadium in hand.
Yep, this is a great way to slow down here. I don't even know if you want to get this double heads, because then you open up the bench space for a Luminion to go find boss's orders.
Double tails, by the way.
Well,
and
good.
That is a good point. Luminion already in hand. Lance, I believe, searched for the regular one and then played the alt art. So you kind of, if you were paying attention, you already know that he has it.
Fancy.
I guess one downside of playing a bunch of different artwork cards.
Well, it's just going to be the quick ball, I believe. Looking through, see plenty of copies of boss's orders. Some of those energies you'd like to see on the Yveltal at some point, but are all the pieces there to close out? You have to think, not just yet.
This is so risky. All 5 energy on the Yveltal now.
Lost Vacuum is in hand, but there's no way to get the
boss's orders
Duraludon into the active spot just yet. Collapse Stadium, absolutely huge.
Are we going to have to rely on Primate Wisdom to find the one Serena or boss's orders left?
Well, when you see someone shuffle as much as Lance is doing right here, right now, I absolutely think that's the play. Here we go. One time, Mr. Monkey.
Ultra Ball. Okay. Mr. Monkey not doing anything right now, but still in an okay position. Still needs to have Kevin not have the boss's orders. That's the name of the game right now.
Yep. Please don't hurt me.
And yes, of course, no attacking into that Radiant Jirachi. You do not want to give Kevin the free 3 cards from the deck.
I don't think he has the energies anyways.
Oh, I guess that is true, yeah. I believe Ultra Ball discards a 1/1 Duraludon line.
Well, as slow as this is going, it makes me think that the boss's orders is not there. Radiant Jirachi. And a bit of a stalemate here against the Radiant Charizard. An unorthodox match.
Grabbing the Arceus V, but you can't bench that. You don't want those free 2 prizes for Lance to take a knockout with something other than Yveltal.
Dangerous back and forth here. You don't want to open up the bench space. You want to find that boss's orders of your own. Both players really hoping to see that card, Marnie, in the hand.
That's actually not bad. That's going to put the... Well, so it depends if Lance, Primate Wisdom, the Lost Vacuum, but when you're hoping to find the boss's orders, you're not going to do that. So Marnie would put it on the bottom of the deck and make it even harder for Lance to actually go ahead and grab it again. Going to take a look through the discard here.
A lot to think about in the final stages of game number 1 as both players try to close out here. True stalemate as just waiting to find the right pieces. For Kevin, it's boss's orders. Both catchers have been used. For Lance, it has to be the catcher or the boss's orders in combination with the Lost Vacuum.
We need another Tails. All right.
You don't want to knock this Pokemon out.
Primal Turbo will start things off for Lance. Just thin the deck out a little bit.
Yep, 2 energies to choose, it looks like. The Double Turbo and the Powerful.
The last 2.
And you start to wonder, can you even play down both of these? You want to avoid getting stuck in the active spot at some point, but you can just play them down and really hope to help your odds. It looks like a 2 and 7.
No, 3 and 7. There's a Serena as well.
3 and 7. I haven't been to math in a while, but that's like 40-something. That's pretty good.
All right, we're going to thin even more Ultra Ball, grabbing that Stoutland V.
I can do this math.
All right.
3 and 6.
That's like 50%.
Well, either he has it or he doesn't, right? we'll
you have it, you have it. Primate Wisdom, 1 card on the top of the deck. Boss's orders. And with that, Lance is going to be able to put together this combo. Has the last card in hand with the Lost Vacuum. Boss's orders. Retreat. Amazing Destruction. We're going to a game 2.
Yep, just trying to line up the pieces perfectly, and there it is, a huge knockout there on that Duraludon to close things out, and that was something else, I tell you what. Kevin played that so well, targeting down the Archeops at the perfect opportunity. Really tried to slow the strategy of finding that amazing rare Evital, and Lance knew exactly what was going on. Said, well, if you've got the boss, you're going to win, but I need to put myself in a winning situation. Played down that Evital as quickly as possible, and ends up finding the right cards to close things out.
Yeah, also heads up play of just not trying to even attack that Radiant Jirachi, because you want to deprive your opponent from getting that boss's orders. You're trying to get that boss's orders, and I guess it worked out. Kevin hit 2 tails on the the Astral Radiance.
Yep, is Kevin one of the prize cards, or at least he thought he did. Truth is, that was a double heads would have been really bad.
Yeah. We're going to have to see if Radiant Jirachi will make an appearance yet again in Game 2, but it was kind of an awkward start from Kevin there, just missing that turn to Arceus V-Star, has to come back with the Raihan on the following turn, and from there, Lance had everything needed and just was waiting to draw it.
Yep. Kevin, I mean, he really was just that one piece away. If he found the evolution, he'd be able to Starbirth into the perfect situation and almost always be able to close out that situation, be able to target down the Archeops, have the follow-up boss's orders, and easily be able to take a game there. But does not have the pieces this time. It's going to go for Game 2, try to go first, and get that set up once more with maybe one additional Pokemon.
Both of these players, again, trying to make it to 5-0, start their day off pretty well. Already pretty good here, halfway through the day, essentially, and you're 4-0. Got to be looking up.
A quick look at the hand for Lance. Maybe not the ideal starting Pokemon, but the hand is gas.
Ooh. 2-1 Arceus V-Star in the prizes. Still has a 2-1 line available.
And the Parasol.
Yeah.
That is not good, but you know what is good? Starting one of the other 2 Arceus V.
Not bad. And Radiant Jirachi right away on the bench.
MVP.
Now, it does kind of make the prize mapping a little awkward for Arceus Duraludon. Usually you want your opponent to knock out Arceus V-Star and then knock out 2 Duraludon VMAX, but now you get an option to take a 1 prize knockout.
Yep, either way, you're playing the 7 or 8 prize game, and you might have to do that with the double Arceus in combination with the Radiant Jirachi, and then that final standalone Duraludon VMAX. But you'd love to have 2 Duraludon VMAX in a matchup like this, where you always see at least one of those vacuums coming, but maybe you can avoid the second one.
Especially with the start Lance had first game, discarding one of them and the Pumpkaboo.
Well, we do see the energy and the Duraludon, everything that you need on Kevin's side. Bare minimum to get the game rolling, and Lance is going to try the same now. Has the quick ball with the Archeops into the discard pile, and I did see a second Archeops in that hand too.
Starting the Dunsparce too, not really needed in this game, but it's 1 retreat compared to that Radiant Charizard having the big 3 retreat from the first game.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's awkward to get the early knockout into the Arceus V-Star if you have to do that kind of retreating, but thankfully it was just an Arceus V, so we saw the Radiant Charizard get aggressive.
Lance checking through the deck, making sure those lost vacuums are in the deck. Those are the bread and butter for this matchup. If you don't have those cards, it's almost impossible to take a knockout on a Parasol Duraludon VMAX. And with this quick ball, gonna find most likely a Lugia V, get that down on the bench, and hopefully another one.
Yeah, I think I saw the quick ball in hand as well, so another quick ball, discard an Archeops potentially, and you can have that Lugia. Maybe you find the Luminion if you want, or you can go for that classic setup we've seen with the Oranguru helping out, cleaning up some of the early draws.
Now, one card that could be pretty good here going second in this matchup is something like a Marnie. Being able to Marnie your opposing Arceus Duraludon VMAX deck. And we've seen it's pretty hard to grab those supporters when you need them.
Yeah, that's a great point. We've seen so often players against Lugia builds use that turn 1 Judge or Marnie to try to disrupt them. But on the other side, if Kevin has Arceus V-Star and loses that and has to try to draw into the right pieces, we've seen how bad the deck is when it doesn't find the Arceus V-Star on turn 2.
And here we go. Lance is going to start things off with that Marnie after getting 2 Archeops in the discard. Exactly what you want to see from your turn 1 being Lugia.
Got scared for a second as Lance just looked at 4 cards, but he's going to go for the 5th, thankfully. Don't have to run out of my seat just yet.
Still has the option to hide something on top with Primate Wisdom if he chooses.
I don't think you can ask for much more here. 2 Archeops in the discard pile. Line up your draw for next turn if you want. It can be that Professor's Research. Has Minion in hand now. That is pretty solid.
I believe just missing that Lugia V-Star to put everything together. And that's actually pretty important. The Aurora energy coming down on that Lugia V will limit later on, depending on how your draws are, for the Amazing Destruction.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I saw the second Aurora energy in hand too.
And I think that's why. Yeah, research on top. You have 2 Aurora energies. You're going to need at least get rid of 1.
Yep, you play 1, you put the other back with the Oranguru, and then draw back into it. Make some decisions later. Kevin does have that double turbo and the Duraludon. We've seen this before, but Marnie is going to be the crucial piece here now. If you can find that Arceus V-Star, it's not really about getting the Star Birth, but getting the knockout in combination with the energies in play is going to be very nice.
And I believe with this Evolution Incense will have that Arceus V-Star. So one of the important things missing from last game, Kevin now has online, and it's really just the extra HP. The 280 HP from this Arceus V-Star will hopefully force your opponent into committing their powerful colorless energies or just not taking a knockout.
Yeah, this is a nice find here. Is going to definitely be able to take the knockout here, put some pressure on your opponent to find all those powerfuls and attack with the Lugia. And you don't even care about that Pokemon. Is you're going to start considering your Duraludon VMAX. Find the big Parasol, get the energies down onto it this turn, and maybe you start thinking about future turns where you can add a card like Pokemon Catcher or Boss's Orders into the hand. And if your opponent plays down one of those Archeops like you're expecting to see next turn, you can target that early and put your opponent in that same situation as last game.
Is there any merit for going for the Pokemon Catcher right now?
I don't think you want to use it, but I don't mind grabbing it. It could be,
Okay.
it'd be a nice card to have in the hand, but I don't really care about where this damage lies. I just want to take the knockout.
Looks like Kevin chose the 2 cards from this Starbirth. Such a powerful V-Star ability that we've seen throughout time and time again. And, oh, well, going back.
He grabbed Boss's Orders and then said, nah.
Let's grab 2 Pokemon Catcher. No?
He passed all the Pokemon Catcher and grabbed the same Boss's Orders. But you can see this is it's an interesting spot for sure because you want to guarantee that you can knock out one of those Archeops. And I don't blame him for this situation.
I do blame him for putting the Parasol in between the evolutions.
Yep. I mean, I guess that's a good way to make sure that they're holding the umbrella.
Okay, yeah.
You don't want to just sit on the umbrella. That's weird.
Yeah, then it just won't work.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a Trinity Nova from that Arceus V-Star, knocking out that Dunsparce, charging up this Duraludon VMAX on the bench. And this is where Kevin wants to be in this game, right? You have that big Parasol, you have your Pokemon charged up. Now you got to force your opponent to have everything else.
Absolutely right. And I think Kevin heard us as we see the Parasol now floating on top of the skyscraper, which is another interesting call, but do you, buddy?
Shades of Mary Poppins, I guess.
I don't like seeing floating skyscrapers. That's just not okay with me.
It's dangerous for the people on the ground. Evolution Incense is going to be a big card for Lance here, though. We'll have that Lugia V-Star, and with already 2 Archeops in the discard, you're halfway there.
I think this is destined to be a pretty solid turn. Everything lined up. Some additional resources in the hand, too, to keep the ball rolling with that Professor's Research.
A couple of them as well.
So if you want to put one back on top, you have that opportunity to have that for the following turn, too, if you think you're going to need to find additional resources.
Grabs the Archeops here, so this must mean, yeah, Lugia is in hand already. You're going to want to have that Archeops to discard, just thin the deck out more and more. Luminion V here is the grab from that quick ball, so you can't even grab a supporter. That's different if you want.
Yep, this might just be understanding the situation of your opponent just used Starbirth and thought about a card for a very long time. And if you grab Marnie, they don't have that card that they like for a very long time, as it's going to be on the bottom of the deck. So rightfully understood there from Lance, trying to preserve these Archeops as long as possible.
Big thing to note, though, that is the last Marnie in the deck for Lance. Started off the game playing the first one, only 2 in the list, so going to be playing this last one. That means no more hand disruption after the fact.
That is where we see Kevin's list is a little different than others. When this big turn does occur, where this Arceus V-Star is knocked out, doesn't immediately have to go into the Duraludon VMAX, has the potential to use that Radiant Jirachi, maybe buy an additional turn, and start to find the boss's orders to knock out the right Pokemon, instead of just taking prize cards your opponent's going to be giving you.
Now Lance, with that first Primal Turbo, has the 2 powerful colorless energies. We'll need 1 more to take the knockout on the active Arceus. Could have it from hand, maybe. Or we'll just wait until after the Marnie to maybe Primal Turbo it on.
Finds the Evital, but I don't think we want to see that just yet.
No, especially with all the Pokemon catchers and boss's orders in Kevin's deck. You want to hide that as much as possible until the turn you need it.
That's a high priority target. The only energy found there is the Aurora.
1 more card, though. Oh, I think the Lugia V-Star.
Might just be using that Archeops there. Find that additional energy. Earl's always the out of finding the choice belt and not having to commit the powerful, but I don't think we really care about the powerful energy in this situation. It's not like we see Stoutland do anything in this spot. Just guarantee the knockout here on the Arceus V-Star.
Oh, I was a little worried. That powerful energy was close to the very
I think it was like the second to the top.
And there was 1 in the prize cards, so just enough for Lance to be able to take this knockout with Tempest Dive.
Yeah, what a great back and forth from both these players. Trying to line up the right knockouts at the right time. Lance going to put the pressure on as he needs to. Take this big knockout here against the Arceus V-Star.
All right. This Duraludon up against the world with this Radiant Jirachi. And the Jirachi's actually the one being promoted right now.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. I think this is the right play. If you have the cards to knock out the Archeops now, then of course you can go for it. But if not, we got a Radiant Jirachi. We're chilling. Just leave it in the active spot, buy some time. Maybe you get to start doing some flipping nonsense in a little bit, but just pass the turnover. If your opponent just knocks his Pokemon out, you're going to find the right pieces.
I would have loved to see a double turbo energy from Kevin there, being able to Astral Misfortune to kind of take the knockout off of 2 heads, but just has the 1 energy and passes the turn. So next turn, if Lance leaves this Radiant Jirachi in play, maybe we'll be able to see that.
Well, Lance does not have the pieces just yet. It would be Lost Vacuum, Boss's Orders, Amazing Rare Evital, and a good chunk of those special energies to get the job done. Instead, it's just going to be get some energies onto, or at least 1 energy onto that Luminion V. Could be thinking about retreating, could be thinking about maybe using this Pokemon as a switching option. You can attack in, open up a bench space, and maybe use that Luminion for Boss's Orders or any support card you're looking for later on.
It is going to be very energy intensive just to retreat this Lugia V-Star, though. But you might have to. You can't take the knockout either way, but then that's 3 cards for Kevin the following turn to really play around with.
Yeah, when you start to think about ways that you can lose this game, certainly the collapsed stadium feels awkward, so having a smaller bench does make a lot of sense. If you could leave that bench space open, then surely you could work in that Evital. So if you use the Luminion now, I definitely don't hate it.
Again, just thinning the deck out as much as possible. Lance debating on really what to do with this turn. It's kind of an awkward situation that Kevin's forced him into.
Yep, Kevin just has a really good understanding. He hasn't had the right cards to close out games like this just yet. Always getting a little bit unlucky there with the Marnies, but look at that. Irida, great card to feature when you have those two lost vacuum. Finds the right pieces at the right time, and it's going to try to set up a checkmate for the following turn.
Now, this is interesting, though, because if Lance uses the lost vacuum on this turn to remove the big parasol, Kevin has the other one prized. Won't be able to get it down.
Yeah, and I mean, you play 2 for a reason. It might be a situation where you want to actually play it early. We don't see that too often, but you play 2.
Well, this means it's going to open up a Marnie to disrupt Lance's hand a little bit here, but just passes, does not want to take down that Radiant Jirachi just yet. And it tails from the Pokemon catcher.
Doesn't blow on the die this time. So that was played right, but Pokemon catcher not going to work out.
It was still 1 either way.
Unlucky. Well, we'll see if we're saving the flips for this Radiant Jirachi's Astral Misfortune. Big opportunity here to knock out the Lugia V-Star.
All right.
One time for the boys. No
Or
shot.
All right. Radiant Jirachi so far doing much of nothing for this whole match.
Unlucky. At least you still have those entrusted wishes if your opponent knocks you out. But Lance is looking to try to close this game out if he finds the right cards. Maybe a situation where you can draw for some additional pieces. We see
I think we might see it this turn.
I don't think Escape Rope is a card featured in the list.
Yeah, usually some of these Lugia lists that play the one Irida feature something like the Escape Rope, but we've also seen people cut the second Lost Vacuum for that Escape Rope.
Well, and we do see the Ultra Ball.
Yep, just thinning the hand down yet again, getting rid of that card you put on top, which I believe was an Aurora Energy. And we can see this Ultra Ball grab that Yveltal.
Yeah, if the bench space was available, there would have been the play with the Luminion and, of course, the Amazing Rare Yveltal. You get that down, and you can work in that knockout with the boss's orders and the Lost Vacuum in hand. But once again, just a piece short. Kind of hoping that the Astral Misfortune worked.
Yeah,
because you just
yet again
you just won bench spaces. Please knock me out. I want to win.
The good old 2-card cut to the bottom from Kevin here. Lost Vacuum, and that is going to be huge, getting rid of that big Parasol.
Yep. It's near game ending with the information that we have. Of course, if Kevin is able to start taking some prize cards, maybe you can find that Parasol at the right time. Lance drawing into a ton here as he does have that boss's orders now. Threw away a lot of garbage to get to that spot. See all those additional Vs and Radiant Charizards. We don't need any of those. We're just looking for energies and Amazing Rare Yveltal.
Now, with the way this Game 2 has gone, one big thing that is going to definitely be a factor is time. Just under 7 minutes left for us to finish this round. And Lance already up a game. That means Kevin's going to have to win this game just to hope for a tie.
Yeah, it's a lot of prize cards to take. Of course, damage capped with the Duraludon VMAX. So you're not going to be taking these big knockouts, at least in one hit. It's going to be a lot of work, and Kevin's going to have to play fairly quickly, and that just isn't conducive right now. There's no big Parasol to feel protected. And I like Kevin just looking at the top cards.
Am I going to draw supporter anytime
find
soon?
anything? Can I get a little help here? Instead, just quick ball for Arceus and hope the top decks get a little cleaner.
Yeah, honestly, I think the only route to victory Kevin has is to boss's orders or Pokemon catcher up those Archeops, take some prizes on those to where you can't charge up Yveltal in one turn. And I don't know if Kevin's hand can do that. I think there's 2 energy.
Yeah, it's just 2 cards in hand. I don't know what they are just yet, but you're going to have to chain bosses or Pokemon catchers if you want to work on that strategy.
And if not, I think it's just as soon as next turn we're going to see bosses orders up that Duraludon VMAX, take the knockout.
Well, maybe Radiant Jirachi can give us one last shot. Just drops them this time, and it's not going to work out. 1 heads isn't going to be enough there for the knockout on the Lugia V-Star. We'll see if Lance was able to get all the pieces together.
And by all of the pieces, I believe it is just Yveltal and boss's orders. And there's a Serena in hand.
Put the Aurora energy back on top, hoping not to see an energy, presumably.
Now I know there is the boss's orders, but is there a way to get the Yveltal?
Has a lot of energy in hand. It looks like the Heat Fire energy along with the V-Guard. 1, 2, 3 Aurora along with the double turbos are all there, so it's just a matter of finding the Amazing Yveltal. Is there a way to search that Pokemon out right now?
Well, you can't even charge it up now because the Primal Turbo is being used and just using for information.
It's a good point, Jeremy. I don't think we're going to see it this turn. I think the stalemate just continues. You don't want to knock out this Radiant Jirachi and give your opponent the resources.
Oh no, Serena discarding some cards to draw until you have 5.
For 2 into the Pokemon.
So next turn we'll have it.
There we go.
But that gives Kevin just another turn of trying to find boss's orders here.
Needs to find
Pokemon
was that a catcher?
Yeah.
One time.
Has been flipping a ton of tails. We're going to need to see a heads here.
No.
Oh, no.
Had the opportunity of a lifetime. Could take away that Archeops, slow this game down to a screeching halt, and maybe find the right cards in the prize cards. Instead, let's throw away some cards with an Ultra Ball, use a Radiant Jirachi, flip a couple tails, and go home.
Listen, Kyle, I'm pretty sure this game has already been like breaking for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can get any slower.
Well, we're definitely coasting. Clean 5 miles an hour. We'll see if anything can happen here with the Radiant Jirachi. A couple fireworks would be nice to close things out here, but Lance holding on to just about everything he needs to close this game out next turn.
Even if Lance draws into a second Aurora energy, can just put it back on top of the deck with Primate Wisdom. I guess the one way you lose is drawing into another one. And again, just another Tails from Kevin here.
I don't even think it matters. I think just the attachment for the turn would be able to do enough for you, as you have the double turbo in the deck to be the additional 2 energies that you need along with the 3 colored energies. There's the Heat Fire. Gonna see the Archeops. Take a quick look.
Yep,
yeah, there are plenty of energies to close this game out. That means that Lance Bradshaw is going to be moving on to 5-0 after the completion of this. We see the energies all there. I believe Boss's orders is the only piece missing. Throw that down. Draw down VMAX. We'll see you later. As Lance moves on to 5-0 and is in a great spot defending the home turf here in Indiana here, Fort Wayne Regional Championship.
Technically not moving on yet, since he still has 4 prize cards, but you're just staring down that Radiant
Jirachi. That's a good point. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself, I guess. But Radiant Jirachi, go ahead, do your thing.
Flip 2 more tails.
Yeah, with 2 minutes left in a Radiant Jirachi, I guess I'm getting excited. But yeah, let's see a couple more flips. Kevin's going to give us one last shot. Come on, Jirachi. No, not there.
Doesn't want to do it.
All right, you do it. Send us off, Jeremy.
Amazing destruction for the knockout. Lance, winner of your round 5, and continuing his pretty consistent run throughout these regionals.
Yep, that was obviously a great showing there. Good understanding of the matchup, and had the right cards in the list to close things out there. Had the double vacuum, knew exactly how to play it, and found an opportunity where he's actually able to play one preemptively. His opponent just never found the right pieces to close things out.
Yeah, I do have to bring up that Game 1 V-Guard and Heat Fire energy. Just keeping that Radiant Charizard around forever up against that Trinity Nova. That's something you don't see too often, but when you do, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, we almost wanted it knocked out like 3 or 4 times. The bench space was so crucial in the matchup. Kevin trying to go for prize cards, and every single time that happened, Lance is just like, please? I'd love to have an opportunity to attack and get a couple more of these Pokemon out, but it ends up working out in Lance's favor this time around. Moves on to 5-0, has a great deck to compete with the rest of the field now. And how do you feel about these 2 vacuums? I feel like that's not too common.
Yeah, well, it was pretty common in the beginning, and then kind of fell by the wayside because Duraludon wasn't really popular. It was a fringe deck where if you hit it, it's kind of a I'll take it if I have to, and as long as I get that 1 vacuum, that Yveltal on the perfect turn, I can still win. But then I think we saw Tord come out with the deck where there's no Lost Vacuum at all,
Yeah.
losing to Duraludon left and right, and you're like, okay, we can't lose this matchup. It's easy enough with just a single item card.
Yeah, I was maybe looking to see some players with a Canceling Cologne start to worry about maybe working that in against the Wheezing players, but if you're not worried about that, obviously the Duraludons are something that a lot of players are expecting to see, and running into that here was a perfect opportunity for Lance to show off how great the deck is.
Now Kevin still has a pretty good start, 4-1. He's going to need to win at least 2 more in a tie to make it into day 2, but with a pretty interesting Duraludon list. So
yeah, it would definitely be fun to see the Radiant Jirachi continue its way. And honestly, you don't need it too often.